Welcome back to the Time for Heroes podcast. This week's guest is Dominic Masters of The Others. The Others shot to fame in 2005, winning the John Peel Innovation Award. I spoke to Dominic about chart success, his portrayal in the media and the music industry as a whole, some novel ways in which The Others connected with their fan base via guerrilla gigs. We spoke about signing with McGee, and we spoke about what The Others are up to now. And at the end, Dominic picked his heroes to come for a dinner. We spoke about all this and a whole lot more. Thanks very much everyone as well for supporting the podcast over the year. I wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and I'll be back in the new year with lots more. Thanks very much. Dominic Masters, it's a pleasure to have you on. What I do with my guests at the start is just get you to tell me about your early life growing up, where you grew up, how your education was and how you became into the music industry. So just kind of blast off for there.
Yeah. Growing up was pretty tricky at times. So I got born in Bristol, and then I grew up in Somerset, in a small town called Wells. It's about 20,000 people. And then when I was 3, my parents divorced. My dad went with my mum's best friend and went and married her, and he had 2 kids with her. And then it was just me and my mum at 3, really. And then from 3 years old up until 11, she went out with a guy called Craig, from Manchester, and that's why I'm a Manchester City fan.
Right.
Then she went out with a guy called Dave, and she went out with a guy called Simon. And then when I was 11 years old, she settled down with my stepfather, a guy called Rob, and she's been with him ever since. But growing up until sort of Rob came around, sort of early teenage years, was pretty tricky because there was obviously different guys around. Yeah. I was on a dinner card at school because we were on social security. So yeah, that kind of gives you sort of some idea of our financial capabilities when you're on a lunch card and that.
Yeah, it's just constant upheaval as well, then, isn't it? If your mum's going through all these different relationships.
Yeah, I mean, it was when Rob settled down with us when I was a teenager, that helped a lot. My dad wouldn't pay any child maintenance for me when I was growing up, so that made it really problematic and quite difficult. Yeah, for my mum to raise me on her own because dad wouldn't pay any maintenance. So that was like, you kind of think your father would pay for your son, but he wouldn't. So it made it a bit tricky. It made it difficult at times. But what I'd say is that it made me independent. So because there was no money around, I'd obviously go and get jobs and shit. So my first job, I worked as, those free papers that go through the doors. Like
the local ones, yeah.
It's that kind of shit. So I used to deliver the Mid-Somerset Scan, it was called. And I had to deliver 400 papers for £7. If you think that, I know that sounds like, what? 400 papers for £7? But when you're like 9-10 years old, £7's all right.
Yeah, and it's doable, isn't it? You could do 400 pieces.
Exactly, it's doable because you've got energy because you're young.
Yeah.
So I did that for a couple of years. Then I had a paper round. Then I worked in a garage as a petrol pump attendant. highly glamorous jobs, these, you know, being a petrol pump attendant. I did that for a couple of years, but then I knew I was going to go to university. Even though my grades weren't good, I knew I would go through clearing somehow. So then I worked in a bottling factory because we had Cow and Gate in Somerset, the baby food place.
Uh-huh.
I worked there. I worked there to save money for university. I worked as a bin man for 2 months to save money for uni. I worked in a meat processing abattoir in Shepton Mallet, like a proper slaughterhouse.
Mm-hmm.
My job each day was to get a cow and then wash all of the blood and the intestines out of the cow and push the cow down the conveyor belt. I did that for a bit. And then I worked in a cheese factory, scraping the mold off of cheese so that the moldy bits would go in and make cheese and onion crisp flavour.
Oh, no.
Oh, I did that for 2 stints of 3 months each.
Right.
So I got that money, and that got me. I got through clearing at uni because my grades, they wanted C's, and I didn't get the C grades. I got E's, 2 E's, and I didn't think I was going to get through on 2 E's. But then past my clearing interviews with the lecturer, they let me into London Guildhall University, which is now called London Metropolitan, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then I ended up getting a 2-1 degree from there. But if I had not done that factory work, I would never have had any money to come up to London, because when I come up to London the first time, it took 2.5 months to get the grant and the loan through from the government. You weren't getting it through until about, I think I got mine in November eventually.
Right.
If I hadn't have had that money from working in all the factory work.
Yeah, you're already 2 months into
Exactly.
uni and
Fuck knows what I would have done. So I did, they were sort of my early jobs. After uni, during uni, I worked in a call centre, which was like, you're like battery chickens, all in rows, thousands of rows in big call centres. So I did that for like through uni the last 2 years, so that I had enough money to pay the rent. And then when I graduated, I went back to the call centre and I thought, do you know what? I can talk a lot. I really can talk.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an amazing skill, but I can talk. So I thought, fuck it. I'll go for a sales job. I'll just go for it. You know, what have I got to lose? Because all I know is that if you don't make money in the first 3 months, they sack you. So I thought, fuck it, I'll go for it. So then I ended up in a sales job, stayed with that company for 4 years, and then the band got signed. And then after the band finished and everything, in terms of like being professional, I just went back to doing sales jobs again.
Right.
So that's been sort of my early life, little bit about the education, and how I luckily got through clear into uni. Then sort of my jobs after the band. So that, I think, covers the first bit of the question.
So obviously you've got a strong work ethic. Do you think that's partly because of your life with your mum growing up and you knew you had to do these jobs to survive?
Well, the thing is that mum didn't have enough money for pocket money. It's been well documented what my mum also did in previous interviews, and I don't really want to sort of go through that. It's been well documented before. But you know, there was no pocket money there. So when I was a kid, I needed to buy things, and I couldn't get them off my mum because we had no fucking money. So I just thought, well, go to work. Do you know what I mean? It's not that I wanted to. It was never that I've never ever wanted to do any of these jobs. I've never wanted to have a work ethic. It's just that there was if I didn't do it, I wouldn't be able to get like a pair of trainers or stuff like that.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You had the vision then at that age to set yourself a goal. That this is what you need, and this is how you're going to get
Yeah.
it. Yeah, and obviously,
just to buy records. Records were so fucking hard. Like, what city did you grow up in?
I grew up in Motherwell, which is just outside of Glasgow.
I know. Okay, but Motherwell to Glasgow, it's about 8 miles.
Spot on, mate. That's class.
Yeah. No, because I remember, because I spent a lot of time in Glasgow, being a govern, had some cracking times in Glasgow. Most of my friends live in a place called Erskine.
Right.
So Davy McClatchy is one of my best friends, and he lives in Erskine. But when you grew up in Motherwell, you could get to Glasgow, right, to buy records.
Yeah.
And that was the thing, is like Somerset is fucking, it's in the middle of nowhere. Like, there's nothing. There's loads of rich kids around. There's loads of like landed gentry who go to public schools. And then there's a load of us peasants that live in the middle of all these posh people in fields. Right? The nearest city was 25 miles away. The bus took 2 hours to get to fucking Bristol. So I'd go to Bristol, I'd go to Bath for 2 hours on this dopey bus just to go and get like my One Velvet Underground album, get my Sonic Youth album on a CD that I'd done 2 paper round shift for. So, over 2 weeks to be able to get this fucking Velvet Underground album. So even buying the albums became a fucking problematic thing because you had to travel 25 miles to buy them.
So, it's all the struggles, man. It's so much easier now, isn't it? But then we're all so much more corporate. Everything's done via Amazon now. It's all kind of to line somebody else's pockets. At uni, it was politics you were doing, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, the thing is, my A-levels were such a disaster, right? I took 3 A-levels and I ended up dropping geography because I wasn't in the frame of mind to take it. Let's put it that way. I passed general studies on an E. I passed politics on an E. And I thought, well, I can't really study general studies as a degree. I've got to, do you know what I mean? I've got to do politics. So I ended up doing politics for the degree. And I don't know. I just swam like a fish to water. Ended up getting a 2-1 degree. Surprised the family, the first person from the Masters family ever to get a degree. So, it was quite surprising.
Right.
Very surprising.
And what would have been the end goal with that then? What sort of jobs were you looking for from getting a degree? Or was there any intention of getting a job, or were you already thinking about a band?
Do you know what? You got a really good point here. Right. So I always knew about the band, but that's something we'll come on to in a minute. But job-wise, you got a really, really good point. So this was the thing. I graduated with this great degree that I wasn't expecting to have. I was expecting to get maybe a third, like a 2-3, or a 2-2. I wasn't expecting to get a 2-1. So I suddenly thought, oh shit, I've got brains on paper. Right? I could get a decent job, something like sensible. So then I started applying for like civil service jobs because I thought, well, public sector, I've done politics, it all makes sense now. So I applied for like loads and loads of jobs, and then realized after like 6 months of applying for jobs that, there was 400 people going for each application, and they're only taking the degree certificates of anyone in the top 20 university. Whereas if you look at London Metropolitan these days, I think it's ranked as the top 10 worst universities.
Right.
So it was, what is formerly called a polytechnic. So I realized after about 6 months, I was never going to get a job in a decent civil service. because I've got a degree, even though it's good, it's from a shit university, you know.
Right.
So I just thought the only thing was to do that sales job, because I knew I'd been in the call center for 3 years. I seemed to be just clocking in, clocking out. If I go to a sales job, I'm still clocking in and clocking out, but I can make commission on top of my wages.
Yeah.
So I thought there's no way else I can, do anything else at the moment. So I just went into it thinking, let's see what happens, and ended up becoming a manager there. And now I'm head of business development for a company many years later. So
So
I've
so
kind
what
of
were you
ended
what were
up
you
in
selling?
lots of things. Um, I started out doing publications, um, Hotel Management International, quite
Right.
an exciting publication. So you're selling lots of advertisements to carpet manufacturers, toilet manufacturers, enamel companies, companies that make sinks, taps. It's quite exciting. So I
Yeah.
did that for 4 years. Then after the band, obviously had our fame. Then I sold IT packages where I would be like a matchmaker, and I would bring an IT director through to meet Microsoft sales director, for instance. I did that for a few years. Then I moved into cybersecurity, and I connected chief security officers or chief information security officers with, say, the head of sales at Symantec or McAfee,
Right.
big security companies. And then I got headhunted and asked to go to, because I've got not a too bad connections over the years, and I was asked to go and head up a business development division for finance director Europe. So I've been doing that the last 4 years, 3 years.
Yeah. So I mean, all joking aside, like I mean, they're good jobs, you know what I mean? They're technical jobs and jobs that no everyone could do. So I mean, like you can't be so down in your luck, you know what I mean? You're working and you still go to the band to a certain extent, haven't you? The band's still going, so it's
We're
just
alive, but
yeah,
just by the skin of our teeth, old boy.
yeah.
By the skin
But
of our teeth.
but it must be better than like you get to do what you want with your music more, don't you? Because if you're one of these A-list pop stars, you're not really in any control, and you know.
Well, it sort of it goes into sort of your sort of questions about this. So, we'll go into the questions properly in a minute, but what you're asking a lot of the time is that, okay, so when you're on an independent label, or you're putting your product out yourself, yeah, you do have great artist control, which is superb, but nobody knows that that product's out there because you haven't got the machine
Right.
of a major label behind you. So when people almost cuss me for the fact that I turned down 2 albums with Rough Trade to take 1 album with Universal, they look at me like I'm some kind of madman.
Mm.
But what you have to look at is that I knew I had one chance, right? I knew 2 albums on Rough Trade probably not going to get me anywhere, really, because the publicity's not there. The Libertines, it took ages for them to get to where they are today.
Mm-hmm.
My point is, when I had Universal for those 2 years, I knew I had a chance. So the advance was almost triple what Rough Trade offered. So sometimes you have to think, okay, this is my one stab at it. Do I want to just tread water on Rush Trade for a few years, and they'll probably drop me anyway? Or do I want one big hurrah in terms of one big smash at it, one big go at it?
That's absolute genius.
Fucking just go for it.
See, once you put it like that, I'd never thought it like that, and that kind of
about it, you know.
It makes so much sense.
Fucking go for it and go wild and have 2 years where people, okay, they might be sick of me because I'm in the press all the time, but I have one chance at it.
Well, let's get on to the music.
The initial steps.
Initial steps into the music. Was there any bands before the others?
Oh, it was. it wasn't a good deal. Okay. So this is what happened. I was at university and I thought, yes, I want to be in a band. It's that kind of thing, isn't it? You really you think, oh, I could sing some songs. At that time, it was like the period of nothingness, 96 through to 2001, where there was just 5 years of shite.
Yeah.
I think bands like Symposium were quite a big band at the time. Gay Dad were quite a big band at the time.
Mm.
You know, there was not much around, and I was in a band. Well, I joined a band, who'd put an advertisement in the old publication Melody Maker.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I used to buy that every week. Yeah, that and Enemy.
I preferred Melody Maker to Enemy, and then ended up buying Enemy when Melody Maker closed.
Yeah, I was the same. Melody Maker was at that time it was like a wee shiny magazine, wasn't it? Where Enemy was still kind of a paper. So I preferred Melody Maker.
I did. I preferred Melody Maker. It was just of the two, it was better, but just the way it was written. And it gave you hope that there was still a chance in this like shite scene after, because like 90 through to 96 was like fucking wicked. Loads of decent bands. Stereolab were great. Beastie Boys were great. Pavement were great. Arab Strap were great. Arab Strap slightly later, but that period was a really good period.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were going into this, and Melody Maker, I thought, I saw an advert, and I thought, all right, he likes the Buzzcocks, likes the Fall. Okay, not many people write the Fall. I like the Fall. I really do. I love the Fall. Okay, he's written the Fall. He's written the Buzzcocks. He's written Magazine. I thought, fucking hell, it's quite Buzzcocky. And he put the Cure. I like the Cure. I thought, fuck it, I'll just go for it. And it said, send a demo tape. I thought, well, can't do that. I thought, right, what I'll do is I'll phone the bloke, and if he's not in, I'll leave a voice message of me singing. And if he don't like it, he can tell me to fuck off. So I sing some bollocks down the phone the best way I can, in the most Dominic Masters kind of delivery.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jimmy phoned up and said, do you want to come down? We reckon you're our singer. I was like, great. Go down to Brighton. I'm only like 19 years old, quite young. I've got black hair, dyed, like the Brian Molko look, placebo. Well, it's that period. And I had black eyeliner and very black hair, black leather jacket, black trousers, and a black t-shirt. So I meet the band. They say I'm the singer after the first rehearsal. And then I get to name the band because I'm the singer, which I think is quite a cool thing. You get to join the band and you get to name it.
So
I thought it was wicked. I get to name the band. I thought, all right, I come up with the most awful name, Magneta. Pretty poor.
Sounds like some sort of superhero, doesn't
So I call the band Magneta in all of my 19 years of wisdom.
it?
And off we go. We play some gigs. We do pretty well. The Buzzcocks ask us to support them. And I'm like, what? We've got a Buzzcock support? This
And
is incredible.
how early on are we talking for this?
I'm 19, man. This is 1997.
Yeah, so is this like within like a couple of months of joining the band, you've got that support?
Yeah, once we've done the first 3 to 6 gigs, we got
that's
gig.
mental, isn't it?
Yeah, but I'm not a bad front man. I'm not being cocky, but I'm not bad. I wouldn't say I'm a shit front man. I might not be able to sing very well, but I look real. And
Yeah.
not a lot of frontmans look real because they're not.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're just playing a game, singing some songs that don't mean fuck all to them, and most of them are about love. You know, that's what you get with a lot of singers. They're happy to just prance around at the front and sort of look like the eye candy and sing love songs, whereas, you know, we're quite in your face. So we got the Buzzcock support on the base of the first few gigs. Then Electric Six coming for us. Now, I knew nothing about Electric Six, but there's some kind of American band. It was their first gig in the UK, and they say, okay, we're going to support them in Brighton. So we do the gig, and then after the gig, we get offered a single deal. Because, you know, we've gone up from Buzzcock support. Electric Six are doing well. Enemy are obviously back in Electric Six. Melody Maker back in Electric Six as well. And we get offered the singer deal. And I'm in the last year of my degree.
Right.
So what do I do? So I think, do you know what? We're not good enough. I didn't think we were a good enough band. I thought we did well to get the Buzzcock support. We did well to get Electric Six, but it wasn't worth me quitting my degree. I was in my last year, so I quit the band and said, look, I just got to concentrate on my degree. And then I got my 2-1 degree. Then after I got the 2-1 degree, me and my wife, we divorced. I'd not mentioned Ren. I'd been together with her for 4 years.
Right.
We divorced. It's about 2000, 2001, something like that. And then I'm suddenly living on Brick Lane with a nice flat and a job and no friends and no wife and no boyfriend and no nothing. So I'm like, what do I do now? You know, what the fuck do I do now? I've got to get a band, haven't I? I've got to do something. I thought, right, I thought, at least, like, first of all, I need to go and find out who I've got an idea that's going to get me up the ladder. Because you've only got to support bands who you like. Otherwise, there's no way of getting up the ladder. So I thought, I'm going to watch loads of bands. So I spent like 2000, well, I would say probably 1999 through to 2002, going to maybe 2 gigs a week.
Right.
I'm serious about that for 3 years, like solid. I was really putting the effort in, and I realised that the best bands around were the Parkinsons and a Cara Cult.
Right.
I realised that they were just genius. So I started, like, I don't know, becoming almost like stuck to the band. Wherever the Parkinsons were, I was there. Not rehearsals, But every single concert they ever did, I was there.
Yeah.
And then I started seeing the Libertines a bit, and I thought they were pretty smart and intelligent. And I knew a guy called Scarborough Steve, who was a guy called Steve Bedlow. Now, I was not a bad pool player, not through choice. More when I was younger, the only times I got to see my father was on a Saturday. But my dad didn't spend any time with me. He just took me to watch him play football.
Mm-hmm.
So the only time I could get to spend any time with my dad was to wait until he'd played his football match. And then what I would do, I'd say, Dad, do you want a game of pool? So I could spend some time with him. And that's how I got good at pool. Because my dad would beat me every time on purpose so that he didn't have to spend any time with me. So what I did, I started getting good at pool so I could beat my dad so he'd have to play me a second time. He'd have to play me a third time. And I'd embarrass him in front of his friends. So it was the only way of getting close to my dad was to play him at pool.
Right.
So I started to by maybe 9 or 10, I was getting good at pool. And then when I came to London, I didn't have many friends, and I'd go to the Good Mixer and I'd play pool because I knew I was good enough. And it was winner stays on. So I'd stay on the table for 6 or 7 games until I met Steve Bedlow. And I'd met Steve Bedlow, and Steve was a better pool player than me. He'd trash me. He'd absolutely trash me.
Right.
And when you'd been up on the table most of the day and you're looking quite good, Steve would walk in with his boot-cut jeans, like really cool fucking like cowboy boots, hair down to his shoulders. He looked like he was in the Stooges. And he'd beat me on the first game, just slaughter me. And I'd been on for 5-6 games. And then I thought, right, I've got to be friends with this guy. He's just brilliant. Then in that period, I'm watching the Parkinsons. He's friends with Pete Doherty in the Libertines. He introduces me to Pete. I'm friends with the Parkinsons. We're all being friendly together. And then the Parkinsons go up to me and say, what do you do in life? Right? This is where it gets scary. Because you don't want to tell them, hey, man, I'm a suit.
Yeah.
I sit in an office and I sell advertising space in a magazine. Yeah? Because it doesn't do much for street cred.
No.
But when you got to pay the bills, sometimes you got to do things that you might not want to do in life. You got to, go to work. And it might not be cool because I'm not like all of these like rich musicians you see these days who've got mummy and daddy to back them, or went to the Brit school, or went to some posh school, or went to a posh school where there was a big music department, or a comprehensive school where there was a music department. I didn't have any of that. I just had to sort of go, I know I'm not bad at singing. I think I could be a front man, but I've still got to pay my way. But when you're like hanging around with bands that you admire, like the Parkinsons and the Libertines at the time, I couldn't go, wow, I sit on a phone all day and I make 100 calls a day. That's what I do. Is that cool? And it wasn't cool, was it? So what did I do? I didn't tell him that. I said, I'm in a band. They said, what band are you in? I said, I'm in the Others. I said, okay. And we're in a club at the time. And Victor Torpedo, who's the lead singer of the Parkinsons, flicks his fingers and he goes, Max, come over here. This is Max Mitchell. Max Mitchell is the fucking club promoter for Club for Losers. And Club for Losers used to run as a satellite club in comparison to dirty water club that PJ ran. PJ's club, Dirty Water Club, was the best club in the whole of London. The Club for Losers was the second best club in the whole of London, all for rock and roll bands. So he calls over Max and says, Max, Dominic tells us that he's the lead singer of a band called The Others. I think we should give them a gig. I'm like, really?
So
really? So Max got his diary out in front of everybody in the club and said, we're putting you on in 2 weeks. Joe Strummer has just died. It's Joe Strummer's memorial gig at the club.
Jesus.
The Parkinsons are headlining. There's 8 bands and you're first on at 7. Good luck.
Yeah, no pressure. Go and get yourself a band.
I'm shitting it. Absolutely shitting it. Slightly frightened, but know that this is my chance. I can do this. I've been in a band before and we nearly got signed. I can do this again. I think, right, what am I going to do? What guitarist do I know? I know no one. I'm in London. I work in a fucking sales job. You know, I'm not like hanging around with musicians, like looking cool. I knew the Libertines a bit through Stephen Bedlow, you know, Scarborough Steve, and I knew the Parkinsons. And I went to a couple of gigs each week, but I didn't know musicians. But I knew Jimmy from my first band, and I knew Jimmy was a good guy, the bald guy who's in The Others. So I say, Jimmy, this is what happened. Jimmy goes, all right, I'm going to join your band. I say, we need a bass player, we need a drummer. He goes, I'll get us a bass player and drummer. Then we did 3 rehearsals in 2 weeks. I wrote 6 songs in 2 weeks. We did the gig, and then after the gig, the guy from Domino Records, I forget what his name is now, come over and said, when's your next gig? And that's how we started. And then I had to find us a fucking second gig within a month, just to play to this guy. I fucking can't remember his name, from Domino Records. And I did a gig in a month's time just for him, because I thought, wow, we're in with a chance. It's our second gig.
That's crazy. I didn't
It's
know
real
that's how
too.
you started. That's mental. Obviously, before we get into music too much, because I forgot this question about football.
Yeah.
You're a big football fan, aren't you? Man City.
I'll tell you how it is. Growing up, my dad was a Bristol City fan. And my mum's first boyfriend, after my dad divorced with my mum, was a guy called Craig, and he's a Mancunian. And he took me to my first football matches, and I was just like, well, my dad didn't take me to fucking watch Bristol City, did he? Like, do you know what I mean? Craig took me all the way to fucking Manchester to go and watch Manchester City play. And like, I stood on the Kipax for the first time, and like, I was 6, 7 years old, and I'm on the Kipax, and like, City won like 4-0. And it was just like, we were in the second division, like we're in some shit fucking division in those days, and everybody's pissing on us. And it was just like, man, this is my club. This is everything. Then I spent all of school being kicked the fuck out of, in terms of not kick the fuck out of violently, but kick the fuck out of verbally, because I'm a City fan. It's probably a bit like supporting Motherwell. You know,
yeah.
no.
I don't support
You Rangers.
No. Celtic. You go there and then.
I'll go into that. So, and like growing up, like I got so much shit for being a City fan. Primary school was written off. City were in the second. You know, secondary school, I was the butt of most football jokes because I was a City fan. By the time the band was going on, City was starting to like show promise. You know, we'd dropped to the third division, right? And then Joe Royal came in. I remember this so well, right? I remember this so well. It was the 18th of December. We were in the third division, right? And we were fucking sixth bottom, right? I thought it can't get much lower than this. And then that season, we went up in the playoff final. Paul Dickoff equalised with a ball that hit his knee and went into the net. We beat Gillingham on penalties. Joe Royal took us up from the third division to the second division to the first division, which is now the Premier League. And I was back. And it was just like, I'd waited so long for this. And then we had Keegan for a bit and Sven for a bit. And I was thinking, yeah, you know, we're just coasting mid-table. I'm quite happy. And then when we started winning things, I stopped. It all got a bit weird. I wasn't used to winning the league. I wasn't used to winning the FA Cup. I wasn't used to winning the Charity Shield or the League Cup. I wasn't used to having good players play for us. And then I went to see City a few times, and I love City, and they will always be my team. But I'm not like an Arsenal fan or a Chelsea fan or a Liverpool fan or a United fan that is looking for glory. That's why I'm a City fan, really.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not in for the glory. So when City started winning things, I stopped watching us. I couldn't bring myself to watch us because I thought I might even curse us. I just wanted City to win each week, and I'll just stay out of the way, and I won't watch us anymore. So to be honest with you, I haven't watched much since we started winning.
Right.
I'm just being honest with you.
Obviously, you brought out a song, "Stan Bowles," which is a bit a boy that played for QPR, wasn't it, in the 70s?
Correct. And Nottingham Forest. You're also at Forest as well.
Yeah. So I'd never heard him, and I know a lot about football. I'd never heard him at the time, but it was, from what I've heard, he was quite a kind of stylish, kind of flair player. Would I be right in that? So is that the type of players you like then?
Like, what used to be good about watching City in the old days is like, we wouldn't be the most amazing side, but we'd always have one or two really good players, like Giorgio Kinklatzy.
Yeah,
remember him?
Brilliant player.
I fucking love Giorgio Kinklatzy. We sold him to Ajax for 5.5 million. Should have stayed with us. But that's what it used to be like. You used to watch City and you'd have a load of shit players and then one quality player. And you'd go away even though we'd been defeated. And you'd think, wow, at least we've got Giorgio Kinklatzy. And it's a bit like that with Stan Bowles. It was like, you know, that QPR team in 75 came so fucking close to winning the league. Like, they were robbed. They blew it in the last 4 games. The Norwich game is an example. Liverpool, really, that season, I think it's 75, 76, if I'm right, or 74, 75, but I'm pretty sure it's 75, 76, is when basically QPR, a team that is, you know, a mid-table Premiership team, really, nearly won the league, like a Leicester. You know, it was so close, and they lost it. But that side, you know, if you look at the Stan Bowles that was playing for him, you know, if you watch how he played, absolutely incredible player. In terms of his alcohol consumption, legendary. After he'd left Queen's Park Rangers, he went on to play for Nottingham Forest. Forest at that time were managed by Brian Clough and won 2 European Cups.
So was he in that?
Yes, he was in the
Forest team.
He was in the fucking second Forest team that won the European Cup the second time.
All right, I'm gonna need to go and watching videos of
Stan
this now.
Bowles, I'm telling you, Stan Bowles is fucking legendary. Anyway, after he got his big payday at Forest, he went to play for Leyton Orient. The rumour was at Leyton Orient, what he would do at half time, he would have a half pint in each of the 4 pubs on the corners when he went to play at Brentford, because I think he was at Brentford or Leyton Orient, one of the two. I think it might have been Brentford, not Leyton Orient. And when he was at Brentford, the 4 corners of Brentford have a pub on each corner, and he had a half in each corner pub in the 15 minutes for half time, and then went back on the pitch and played.
That's brilliant.
That's a hell of a story. And then what Stan Bowles did is, when I wrote the song, Stan Bowles, he sent me, behind me, that's my bookshelf. That's my flatmate's bookshelf. Mine's the smaller one.
Right.
Mine's just music books. Is all I read is music autobiography. But have a look around. Here we go. Stan Bowles.
Wow.
That is Mr. Stanley Bowles' signature of one of the greatest players ever to play in England.
Great. Yeah, I'm going to definitely check him out. I cannot believe he was in that Nottingham Forest team.
Aye.
So who would have been in that? Would that have been like with Martin O'Neill? Martin O'Neill would have been in that team, John Robertson?
Yeah, the John Robertson, even though John Robertson had a considerable amount of pies, this man played in 2 European Cup finals. You know, the amount of pies John Robertson ate was quite considerable. He had a bit of a belly on him.
Yeah.
But man, was he good.
Yeah. Well, I can mind him, obviously, Martin O'Neill, John Robertson at Celtic as a manager and assistant manager. And he was quite jobby then. But
he'd had some pies when he played for Forest.
Yeah. That's brilliant. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to check out Stan Bowles. I'm going to go down a Stan Bowles rabbit hole later.
He's brilliant.
Right. So, back to the others. Obviously, we've found out about your initial steps. Some of the things you're famous for, obviously, guerrilla gigs. What was the idea behind guerrilla gigs? Was that just to get yourself noticed, and it's a good way of connecting with fans, isn't it, I suppose?
Well, it came purely accidentally, not through wanting to do them. So you got to look at it, picture the scene. I hate to say those words, but picture the scene. You know, it's fucking 2002, 2003, and 2004. And clubs are saying it's 16 plus, and venues are saying 16 plus. We're getting bigger all the time and we're growing, but our audience base are quite young. So there was times where we'd do a gig, but there'd be 50 kids who are on the street who've travelled from Ilford. So Ilford, there's a section of the Others fan base, which is the 853 Kamikaze division, which is called the Ilford 7. These 7 lads, who are all about 15, had travelled to the gig from Ilford, and Ilford's fucking miles away. It's the kind of place you wake up on the night bus and you go, oh my God, I'm in Ilford. I fell asleep at the night. Oh God, man. It's another hour to get just back into the East End. That's Ilford. Right? If you've got a place in Glasgow where you wake up, it's the last stop on the night bus. Well, that's
Yeah.
Ilford. These kids had come in to watch us and got refused on the door because they had no ID or they had no fake ID. Now, the more sort of cool kids all had fake IDs, but maybe not all working class kids are so up on the game of the fake ID scam. They couldn't get in. We felt awful because they couldn't get in. They were kicking off outside. And I thought, yeah, rightly so. Don't you go and fucking kick off. I thought, wow, what are we going to do here then? And then someone said in the venue that they had an acoustic guitar. I'm not going to do Kumbaya, my lord, or anything like that. But I thought, right, I'll go and get Jimmy. Jimmy, I explained the situation. He got the acoustic guitar. And we ended up doing 4 or 5 songs for these 7 kids and the other kids that were outside who couldn't get in. Then, as the others progressed up the the greasy pole to fame, we were playing considerably bigger gigs, and we would do our best to use our 20 guest list places to get as many people into the venue as possible. We'd do things where we would open the fire escape and to let people in, things like that. We did everything that we could. But sometimes you'd have really tight security and they were shit hot. And there was no way up that my brain and my genius would be able to get round their particularly high class security. So in the end, what you would do is go, right, they've got us this time. There's no way we're going to get the 50 kids that are outside into this venue. They're all under 16. There's no way we're going to get them in. So then we started bringing a guerrilla gig kit to those venues because those kids were outside. They couldn't get into the venue. And then we go and do like a song, maybe 6 or 7 songs outside the venue for those people that couldn't get in.
So what you're saying is you were going to gigs and already planning and doing a guerrilla gig. That's brilliant, man. That you were thinking about the fans so early on.
Well, it's just not. It was more that if you didn't do it, you look like a cunt because you're going, oh well, you've travelled all the way here. The venue won't let you in, and you're not doing anything for us, but you claim to be like looking after us. So we're like, all right, we'll do a gig outside the gig with whatever equipment we've got, and then it just kind of became the norm. You play in Newcastle, you go, oh fucking hell, there's 20 kids that can't get in. All right, we'll do 3 songs for you on acoustic outside, or Glasgow, wherever we were. And that's kind of why we ended up doing them, really.
Mm-hmm. But they progressed, didn't they, into BBC headquarters, Abbey Road crossing, the Dodgems at Leeds Festival, on a tube train.
Yeah.
So was this all your idea, or was it the rest of the band part of this? Because it's mental, man. It's
well, I just got to plug the computer in because the battery's on low. It was just, I thought about like upping the ante. I thought, well, we're doing these regularly because we have to, because otherwise the kids are never going to watch us play, are they? Because they're too young. So I thought, we do those. And then I thought, well, how can we expand the sort of craziness? So I thought I'd do a gig on a tube train. Just to wind up people. And that was fun because it does wind people up. And it kind of goes like, well, I'm legally allowed to do it. So why can't I? So I did it. Invading the BBC, that was ballsy because they never knew what hit them.
And what was that? And what was the reason behind that?
We weren't getting enough airplay, really, as far as I was concerned. We were like, we were on a C level. So you get 4 levels of playlist, and we were on C.
So like the A level,
we were getting the odd play.
Yeah,
you know,
whereas
now and again.
if you're on the A list, what is that? You're getting played every hour or something.
I don't think it's every hour,
Yeah.
but it's something
Well,
like
you do.
4 times.
There is some radio stations
4 times a day.
Yeah, there is some radio stations where, like, see if I'm at my work and you get like commercial radio on, and you do hear the same songs just over and over again, to the point where you just think that there's only like 10 bands in the world that exist. So you're away down there on the C list.
Well, they got a decent major behind them that are really pushing them on an A list. And okay, you might not like those 10 or 11 bands because it's totally in your head all the time. But that's publicity, isn't it? You know, they've got to get it into your skull until you're singing the lyrics to the other's song, William, while you're having a shit. Or, you know, you go into bed and you're humming the tune to "Got My Friend Called William," you know. So when we're on that C list, we knew we weren't getting many plays. So I thought, right, we're going to invade the BBC. So we off trotted down to the BBC, told all the fans that were on the website, said, right, get there for this time. The BBC didn't know this was actually happening. And then we sort of turned up with 200 people and we invaded. And then the security, and they're going, what the fuck? You know, you don't know what to do. The two security guards, and there's 200 of us, and we're doing a gig in the reception. It was good fun.
Yeah, and so did that get publicity though as well? Did it help in any way?
So. Very much so. So there was a knock-on effect with the publicity too. But we didn't get up. We didn't get up the ratings list with the BBC.
All right. So you didn't even get pushed up to the B list.
No.
Oh well. But we're saying all this, but you had chart success. You had 4 songs in the top 40, which is an achievement.
We were pretty lucky. I mean, what I would say is this: is that, you know, the band was going from 2002, 2003, and then it was 2004. Those first 2 years, we were everywhere in London, and I worked my balls off. I really tried so hard in terms of, I put in a disciplined model where we would do the rehearsal in Brighton on the Sunday. We would either have the gig on the Friday or the Saturday somewhere in London. And then I would do all of the club nights, record company nights, indie club nights, concerts in the week, after I'd been to work, may I add, and use those bits as networking places where we might be able to get someone to hear our CD, where we might be able to get a support slot, or I might be able to talk my way into a support slot. I might meet a manager of a band who thinks, fuck it, I'll let this boy just support the band, you know. I did a lot of that for 2 years to get it to the stage where our fan base were quite connected to us, because we're doing loads of after parties. The after parties are free. The fans are coming to the after parties in hundreds. We're having after parties in houses. We're hiring out warehouses. We're hiring out cafes. We're hiring out restaurants. We're taking a whole pub. You know, like they have those steam mobs. Like flash mob, sorry.
Yeah.
You know, I'd go and find a boozer in the East End that I knew was an old man's pub, and we'd just invade 200 of us, just because we could, right? And that's what you start to build, like a loyalty. So those first 4 singles, they're charting at 5,000, they're charting at 2,000, they're charting at 3,500, they're charting at 4,000 in that first week. It's not much, really. You might have your London fans, a couple of thousand that's seen you, and then you did the first tours, and you did after parties in Sunderland on a council house estate. You went to Glasgow, and you went to a party in Govan near the big Asda superstore that's in Govan, right? Or like we did like after parties in Portsmouth in a car park, or in Exeter in a hotel, whatever it was. But you're having those touch points in terms of engagement with your fan base. So that builds some kind of loyalty, because the fan base has sat down with the guy that wrote the song that they went to see, and now they're drinking with that person as well, or partying. There's a connection. They go and watch us 3 months later in Wolverhampton, 3 months later in Leicester, 3 months later in Nottingham, wherever it is, and it's more than likely that they'll either meet me backstage in our dressing room, meet me in the bar after the concert, meet me in one of the parties, and meet all of the band, and we'll all hang out together, and we'll make it all a deal in a few months' time. That also built a lot of loyalty from our fan base. So that's why I think the first 4 singles sold quite well. The album sold quite well. But when you sign to a major, there's also limits of what you can achieve. So when the deal is, well, Mr. Masters, you have to sell 100,000 records, and your first album has to go gold. Well, I sold 60,000 and I was 40,000 short, So I was close, but no cigar.
So should we all get and buy another copy?
Too late now, Tony.
Yeah.
No, but
we could all get and do that. That would maybe get them off your back.
I've been back at work too long.
So, but it's an achievement to get these songs charting. There's no many bands now in your kind of style that would have any chart success, so it is an achievement. Another achievement was obviously it's pretty profound for a band like yourself, the John Peel Innovation Award.
Do you know what? I found it the other day.
Did you?
Right.
Have you got it here?
Hold on. Look, if anyone does see this, I am in tracksuit bottoms. This is the original one, right? So there was 4, because obviously you get 4 band members. I'm the songwriter in terms of the lyricist, but the other 3 are obviously the musicians. I was given the original as the lyricist, and then the other 3 in the band got copies as the musicians. Got this thing that comes with it. Sure. That says the others on it.
I can see that. That's magic.
And then it goes. Thing is, someone broke it at a party once.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure all these awards, the same thing happens. It's a bit blurred, but
that's it. And
the only other person.
I'm not putting my finger up to you.
The only other person I know that's got one of those awards is a boy from Dundee, Chipsy, and he's pals with The View, and I think I think Kyle gave Chipsy one of their awards.
I remember The View when they were younger lads, and they came to one of our gigs. I don't know if it was Edinburgh, or I don't know if it was Aberdeen,
Maybe
and
Well, Dundee, because they were from Dundee. So
we never played Dundee.
right, so it might have probably been Edinburgh then. I would think
and
that's where they
there was one where they come to see us when they were younger, and they were playing their guitars on top of a bus shelter.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that about them.
Yeah, that sounds a bit right.
Yeah, they were at the gig. I don't know if they really wanted to see us. I think they were just there playing View songs to others. Cool.
So, because I mean, they would have ended up part of the kind of scene. Obviously, if they were young boys, they would have ended up kind of part of the bands coming up after yourself. Which brings me on to, I can remember the front cover of NME. Do you know what I'm talking about? Where you, Doherty, the Paddingtons, there was other bands as well. When Selfish Cunt was there, and I'm trying to think what other bands were there. There was a good crowd of these anyway.
Oh God, Neil's Children.
That's right. Yeah.
Was Johnny Burrell in those days, or was he around there?
I don't know if he was.
Pete was Pete there.
Yeah, Pete was there.
Oh, I'm trying to think who else.
Because
White Sport was the White Sport maybe there.
Who was White Sport? That was
the Rakes, maybe the Rakes.
The White Sport was Adam Fycheck, wasn't it? White Sport, is that right?
They might have been there, and the Rakes might have been there. Yeah. That might have been about it. I remember we all had to stand in a line outside Buckingham Palace, and we were sort of put as the next generation, so to speak, of music that was coming through, and it was very much a sort of reflection of like, okay, this is what happened in 76, 77, 78, 79, and this is like the new punk of the day. But obviously, as other podcasts have discussed, they just missed out by giving it a name. So we're now known for the rest of our lives as Landfill Indie.
Well, because I spoke to Lloyd.
Oh, right. I love Lloyd.
Lloyd Dobbs for the Paddingtons, and he was saying that they didn't even know that the Paddingtons weren't for London. They just assumed they were for London until they started talking, and they're like, "You're only for London," and they're like, "Well, you never asked us."
They supported us. So we got the first tour of the UK, and McGee, Alan McGee, who I'm going to come on to in one of your later questions. He's going like, tight budget, no tour support, not much money for this first tour. And what I'd done is, in the old days, McGee wanted the deal to be a 360 deal, where he would manage me, but I'd also be on the record label. And I was like, you must think I'm young. I'm not young. And like I told you earlier, I read books about music, autobiographies, and that's all I read. And I'd read a lot of music autobiographies before I met Alan. So I realized you never had, or you never could have as an artist, to have a label also manage you. It's career suicide to have them own you as a 360 deal. You've got no one to argue against because your management is also your fucking label. It's madness. So I said to McGee, no, I'm ever so sorry about this. I'd love you to manage me, and I know you managed Oasis and everything, but you're also my label. So this is madness. There's a conflict of interest. So I got myself a manager, make McGee my label, and then later we'll speak about how McGee took me from Poptones through to Universal. But on his label, if I'd not had an independent manager, my first tour would have been a week across London. but because I had an independent manager that wasn't attached to the label, I got a 5-week tour of the UK. And my 5-week tour, I got to take 2 support bands that I chose, and one of them was called the Paddingtons.
Right.
So, all right. So do you see the difference?
Yeah.
I would have just bowed down to the label and McGee, and I had a 1-week tour and probably done fuck all, or have an independent manager who's going, okay, get 5 weeks here, let's cause riots.
So what was it? What then was the decision to take the Paddingtons? What was it? Yeah.
Me, really?
Yeah.
I wanted the Paddingtons.
What was it you liked about them? Kind of the punk kind of vibes.
I thought they were pretty cool kids, really.
Yeah.
I like Lloyd a lot. Lloyd's like sort of the heart and soul. I really like Lloyd.
You know that
Marv's cool as well. Tom, I thought, was a natural singer. Josh, is he in the band anymore? Has Josh moved on to pastures newer?
Well, you know that they're actually playing some gigs at the tail end of the year. I'm going to see them. I think it's the 19th of December. I'm going to see them in Glasgow, and okay. I'm pretty sure it's a full band. So
Josh is back.
I think so. I think what he said was, don't quote me on this, but I think they're going to be doing a lot of stuff with Tom as well, because see, Tom's got his solo stuff. I think it's basically going to be Tom with the Paddingtons backing them up. So, watch our space. But I'm going to see the Paddingtons in December.
So, I'd seen Josh was in another band. So I did wonder if he was still with the Paddingtons or he was with both bands.
Well, I don't think the Paddingtons have done much for. I think they came back for like a one-off gig in 2017. I've got notes here from the last.
With Lloyd?
Yeah, that's it. Let me find when. 2014, they played like a wee gig, and then I don't think they've done anything.
That's quite similar to us in that respect.
Yeah.
That kind of really, that would sort of dovetail quite sort of into a bit of where we've been kind of thing, because your question after the John Peel Award, because like after that one, it was about the portrayal in the press and the media, and this has been always like a thing that's sort of out there. I and what I would say to that question is this: it's like, journalists themselves, it's one person's opinion. So I'm up against someone's opinion. I can't influence that guy or that lady's opinion at all. I always tried to give good copy when I was doing interviews. But the reality is it's always like like the Bill Hicks sort of sketch where Bill Hicks says, right, it's the gates of heaven. God sat down. The journalist comes up to the gates of heaven. God says to the journalist, well, you wee hack, what have you done in life? The journalist sits there and says, well, I criticised Led Zeppelin's album. I criticised the Beatles album. I criticised Fleetwood Mac's albums. And God sits there and says, what did you do in life? What did you create? What did you actually do? What did you create? Journalist says, well, nothing. I just criticised things. God said, so you spent your time that you had in life, criticizing other people's work that you didn't create. And that's what I'd say about my portrayal.
And what would you say about the media? Was that tabloid press, or would you include the musical press in that as well?
I would say the Sun were pretty cool with us. The Daily Mirror were pretty cool with us. I'd say the broadsheets, the Times were cool. The Independent were cool. The Guardian were not too bad, really.
Mm-hmm.
The main stuff sort of came from, I think, Rock Feedback, who were a website. They took a dislike to us, and the Enemy, as we were not selling records.
Yeah.
So
well,
things had obviously gone well when we had the 4 top 40 hits, but when the album didn't get to gold on the first outing, which that was what the label required, then Enemy started putting the knife in, and then Q Magazine started putting the knife in. So both of those were the ones that were really, they were throwing some sort of punches that were really low blows, low blows.
Which, I mean, the music industry, the music press, should I say, is very fickle in it. It's build them up, sell the magazine, and then move on to the next one. What I would say, my episode that comes out tonight is Anthony Thornton. We wrote the Libertines book, Bound Together, with Roger Sargent. And I texted him the other day just to let him know it was coming out. And I said I was speaking to you. And he said, Dominic Masters will be a brilliant guest, one of the few guys to make a mark on music. That's what he said.
I send much thankness for him for saying that. Most grateful.
But what I would say is, he is one of the better journalists I spoke to. I spoke to 3 or 4, and for what I got for him was he just loved the music. You know what I mean? So you get different angles, but I kind of thought with him that he was in it for the right reasons, which no all of them are.
Yeah, I mean, there are, you know, so you know, journalists that are in for the good.
Yeah.
Lester Bangs, you know, both. I got both of them, all of his works, right?
Which, just on that as well, on that Libertines book, Docherty said of Anthony Thornton, better than Lester Bangs.
Man, honestly, I love Lester Bangs. I love Nick Cant as well. Nick Cant, right? There are journalists out there that back the Stooges, that back the Fall, that back the Velvet Underground when record sales were not big, you know. And there are a few good guys out there, but generally, you know, what you're going up against is someone who generally, the more words they get on a page, the more they get paid. And if I speak quite a lot, which I do, they're going to get paid more. And if they put an angle, on that story, they can maybe get a few more words in and get paid even more. So, you know, like it was originally, we'd meant to have like a 1-page in the NME for the album, which ended up being a 3-page interview and the front cover. Do you know what I mean? So there's ways it worked for us, yes, in that respect. And then there's ways that they spin it so badly on your way down that it does make it particularly difficult for you to move forward in the industry.
But what you've always got there is the fan base. Do you think you still got I mean, I'm still listening to your music. Um,
In
I've,
terms of numbers, I got to look at it always like from a business plan, right? And I'll be always truthful in numbers. So first one, we do 60,000. Move to the second album, I think roughly it did about 25,000, right? Inward parts. It's
mhm.
not much, right? You move down to the third, and we had something like 11,000 um, downloads and streams of the album. So that was the third one, which was um, Songs for the Disillusion.
Uh-huh.
So you're thinking
Yeah.
maybe 5,000 to 10,000 tops. That's probably what we've got in terms of, what I've got on Facebook in terms of coverage. There's 2,000 people that I'm connected to. Are they all others fans? I don't know. um, but generally, I think we've probably got about 5 to 10,000 tops, and that's probably our niche.
Mm.
In terms of enough money from that to survive, probably not. And that's the thing. After the second album, I went back to work. So, I've been back to work nearly 14 years.
Hmm. And do you think this is to do with Spotify, innit? Really, because you're people aren't going out and buying an album because you can get it on Spotify, and then you're getting what 0.12 pence or something every time
Oh,
it's played 100 times or something.
it's not too much, but you've got to think about it. If you were in your teenage years and there's a band that you like, now you might be like me and you, who are both working class, and maybe Bristol is 20 miles away, right? If I was Dominic, age 13 in 2021, I wouldn't be off to Bristol to buy my product anymore. I'd be going, right, I'm listening to my band on YouTube. I'm
Mm.
listening to my band on Spotify for free.
Yeah.
It's allowed a lot of working class people to get music for free. I think that's brilliant. Whether it helps me, well, no, it doesn't help me as the artist. That's why I'm back at work. But you got to see it from a democratization of music.
Hmm.
Now, kids who, when I was 13, if I could only listen to Sonic Youth if I went and paid for it. Now you can go and listen to Sonic Youth on YouTube for free on part of the television that your mum bought.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see what I mean? So the kids get the music for free. So the way I look at it is like, if I was young, I would want it for free.
Oh, I mean, I'm saying that, and then I'm bunging my podcast right onto Spotify. You know what I mean? So everybody's guilty of criticising them and then using them for their own benefit.
Mate, I think that if working class kids can get Sonic Youth and Pavement, the whole back catalogue for free, and it inspires them to go on and form their own band. Okay, the band might not make it enough money to be professional, but you'll have a good hobby.
Yeah. Right. Back to the Alan McGee, because a point that I thought to Alan McGee is he seems to just at some point been involved in most of the bands in the world. So like
Yeah,
Oasis,
all the good ones.
the Libertines,
Yeah.
um, yourselves,
Oh,
Paddingtons. He's coming
Las
back.
Vegas.
He's coming back. He's managing Las Vegas. He's bringing the View back, um, amongst many others. You know what I mean? Primal Scream and all that. All these connections. So, what was it like working with him at Poptones? And
Oh, it's
obviously, you've
great.
touched on it a wee bit.
It's great, but it's hard work to get to him initially, right? So what I did, I thought, right, it had been the 2 year mark or I think it had been a year and a half mark. And I was like, knew we were good enough to get signed, but we were still not signed. We were getting cagey as a band because we weren't signed. So I've started ramping up like a business model of how we were going to fucking get signed. So I thought, well, look, I've got to make a list of everybody I actually like or I respect. So the list was quite small. And then I had to make a list of record labels that maybe I didn't respect. It was quite long. Mm-hmm. And then I made a list of managers that I actually knew their name of. And then I made a list of managers that I knew of through other people. I had a nice piece of paper of leads in terms of where I could go. Then I needed to find out where these people lived in terms of when do they get into touch points where they speak to plebs like me, who are working class scum in their eyes, but they're willing to speak to one of us because they're in a social situation. So what I started doing is I started finding out every fucking record company's party night a month. So I'd find out when fucking Rough Trade had their night. There were a lot of arrogant people at those parties, particularly a lot of backslapping, loads of backslapping, people sucking each other's cocks off, literally. But that's what Rough Trade is. It's that kind of environment. Then you had other bigger labels. You might have a Sony or you might have a Universal that might have subsidiary labels like Mercury and Vertigo, and they'd have parties. And you might have other smaller labels that were doing band nights. So I started just doing like Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, every night, doing the rounds, taking my CDs in my pockets, you know. And then I started making an even more wiser decision. I said that I would only give the demo CD to a guy or a lady who's at a label if they gave me their telephone number. If they didn't give me their telephone number, I wouldn't give them the CD. So I started bartering with the people that I'm pitched to work out if they really gave a shit about me. Did they want that CD of my band? Did they give a fuck about me, or are they just saying, I'm taking your CD, now fuck off out of my sight. You're in my social scene. I don't want you here. Take the CD, now go away, little boy. And there's a lot of that. There's a lot of nasty men and a lot of nasty women in the industry that just, you've got access to them by going to their club night. They don't like it, and they just want you to fuck off. I started realizing that certain labels, there was a real big fuck off policy, right? They're really like ego, very egotistic. But I knew McGee was meant to be nice. Everyone said McGee was nice. He was a good man. You could talk to him. He would let you talk. And he was humble and he was approachable and he was affable. And I liked Oasis. So that was a big thing. Definitely maybe the first album is a fucking winner. So I thought, okay, I'll start going to the club nights. Then I knew a lady called Emily Mann, who's just a lovely lady. She knew Alan McGee. I said, could you at least find out when McGee is meant to actually turn up at his club night? Because every week it's Danny Watson. As much as I love Danny Watson, there's no Alan McGee there. And I can't sell my band to Danny Watson because he's a non-decision maker. Danny Watson might hear this and say non-decision maker, but really, I'm promising you, decision maker in terms of my career was Alan McGee, right? So I had to get to the decision maker, but unfortunately, I was turning up each week. I had to go to work in the mornings, so I could only be at the club between 8 o'clock to roughly about midnight, and then get home for 1 o'clock, get up at 6 a.m. and go to work. The club would go on till 2 or 3. Sometimes McGee wouldn't get there till late, and I'd miss him. And a lot of the time I would miss him. So I found out from Emily when he was there. When I got to him, I was like a Rottweiler. I literally just grabbed hold of him. And I was probably a bit in his face. But I just told him what the plan was. You know, we wrote This Is for the Poor, which I thought was not a bad song. And I thought it might make people think. And even if it was a load of rich kids and a load of middle class kids looking down on me because I'm a peasant and I'm writing about my hatred of them, then there might be a load of working class kids out there that get it. And that was my guess, is that there would be a few working class kids that go, do you know what? He's right. Fuck him. McGee got it. McGee got it in like the first pitch.
Yeah.
He just totally got it. And then it was the hassle of getting a gig from him. That took a couple of months, and I'm doing well in terms of playing at the Barfly, selling out at the Barfly. You know, we're doing well at the Rhythm Factory. We've got Baby Shambles supports. We've got Libertine supports. We're doing well, but it's like hard to get the Death Disco gigs. Then we got the Death Disco gigs sold out. Then we were on that Death Disco like once a month, selling out for 6 months. Every night. McGee was coming down to watching us. Labels were coming to watch us. Loads of fucking press were watching us, and they could see it was organic and that we created this ourselves. This wasn't something that was created by an industry. It was created by the fact that we had fucking parties and we looked after our fan base. McGee got it, signed us for the single. Everyone told me it wouldn't get reviewed. Everyone told me that Enemy wouldn't back it. We got single of the week in Enemy, and we went in at number 42 in the charts. And then the majors came in for me. And it was just like, well, look, you've all been really fucking nasty to us in terms of like really disrespectful to us as a band, because we wrote This Is for the Poor. And, you know, it's a load of posh kids really that hated the song because they're a load of posh kids that went to the Brit school or they went to a public school, and they're musicians and they're trying to look cool, and someone has called them out for their class. That's all. And said, like, so you born with a silver spoon? Well, most of us have a really difficult route into music. You've been taught how to play classical piano and classical guitar by the time you're 11. Most of us don't get that. And then when we went in at 42, it was just like, fuck you all. It was just like, yeah, you posh fuckers. So we went in at 42, and then the majors came in, and then McGee was like, okay, you've got one single deal. I could get you through to Mercury Vertigo, who are part of Universal. Then Sony came in for us. Then Rough Trade came in for us. Sony were really nice, but offered 20 grand less. Rough Trade were really, really like pompous and kind of made me feel like I should be signing for them, even though they're offering me 50 grand for 2 albums, whereas Universal are offering me 135 grand for one.
He's a wee second. I'm just going to plug my computer in.
But yeah, so you had the 3 deals on the table. You had 135 grand being offered from Universal. You had 115 grand from Sony. You had 50 grand for 2 albums from Rough Trade, who were also talking down to you, being very condescending every time we had any engagement with them. And people go, why didn't you take 2 albums with Rough Trade? The Smiths were signed on Rough Trade. The Strokes were signed on Rough Trade, where you had 135 grand being offered to you by Universal that generally go, look, you've got 1 album to make it. Good luck. If you make it, you're in. If you don't make it, you're dropped. And I thought that approach was more honest. It was just very much like, we'll do what we can for you. We'll market it you to the hills. We'll throw you at the press. We'll put McGee behind you. We'll do everything we can.
Mm-hmm.
Without McGee, I would never have had that access to Universal. So, you know, I was very, very fortunate to sign for Poptones. I'm very fortunate that he negotiated the deal alongside my lawyer, Paul Spraggan, that got us through to Mercury Vertigo, got us through to Universal. We had 2 lovely years there. Probably the most wild band they ever had. So it was good. I had a good time.
Do you think then? Well, I think you do. That was the reason behind the guerrilla gigs and things like this, because you knew you had the 1 year deal and you had to go out and sell it.
Exactly. You just had to push every button that you had available in your portfolio to get to as many people as possible. And if they hear the song and they like it and they buy it, we're in with a chance. If they hear it and they think, oh God, I don't like this, then so be it. But you had 2 years to make it. With Rough Trade on 2 albums, yeah, you'd have 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you'd plod along on 50 grand divided between 4 band members, right? Think about that as a living wage between 4 band members over 5 years at 50 grand, right? It's fuck all.
Yeah.
And I quit my job before the single so that I could do the UK tour with the band, because my work wouldn't allow me to have 5 weeks off. So I quit the job, took the single deal, and was hoping that the single sold well so that I could get a major deal. Luckily, it all happened, but it was a big gamble. I had to quit a job. I had no mum and dads with money backing me in those times, and I still had to pay for my rent.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to go with the bigger deal, don't you?
Yeah. So it all makes sense, doesn't it? What's your relationship like with McGee now? You still speak?
Very good. I'd say very good. What I would say is this, is that, you know, I haven't seen him since, I don't know, maybe 5-6 years, something like that. It's been a while, but I've been back at work for 14 years. You know, I'm not in a social scene with music people, and I'm not in a social scene with people from my past, really. So we don't cross any paths. My band, we haven't got a label or anything like that. I've been at work since 2008. Most of the band have got jobs in some shape or form. It's pretty hard to sort of have any engagement with him, because I don't see where I would ever meet him anymore, really. Mm-hmm. You know, maybe if there's a Poptones documentary, a bit like the Creation one.
So, I mean, that kind of leads us on as well to what's next for the band. Because you are still together, but just not so much music coming out.
Eddie is in Iraq,
right?
He's in the Marines,
mm-hmm.
Right. So he's been there for 1 year. He gets back from Iraq in December. Joe has been sort of, moving around, and obviously had a lot of problems with COVID with his work.
Mm-hmm.
because he was a professional drum tech. So then COVID came in, and obviously all the live work stopped. So he was hit pretty bad. Jimmy has sort of just got a house and settled down with his long-term girlfriend Annie. Steph is a professional keyboard where he does like music as a session musician. Steve McCready, the other bass player, he's just doing an apprenticeship at the moment to be a computer technician. And then I've got my job, obviously, doing business development. So we've all got our own jobs. And so since the last late album come out in 2013, it's been pretty hard to get us together because we've all been in different
herding cats.
Yeah, well, the two, Johnny and Jimmy, are down in Brighton. Oh, and like Johnny does journalism, and he works as sort of a kind of nomadic job as well. They're down in Brighton. Eddie's normally either in Estonia or Iraq. And then Joe is in London, I'm in London, Steve's in London, and Steph's on the outskirts of London. So getting us together has been pretty hard over the last few years. We nearly were going to have rehearsals before COVID, and then COVID happened. And that's 2 years just gone.
Yeah.
And then now we have rehearsals booked in for December. Which is the 13th, the 14th, the 15th, the 16th, the 17th, and the 18th. And we've hired a flat. Don't know if that's a good thing. We've hired a flat, and we're all going to stay together for a week. We've got 42 songs, something like that. Of which 32 of them are virtually finished, and the other 10 need some putting together. We rehearse them in December, and then it could be any time between February and July to record the 4th album. And then you would think we see how that goes, and then I would imagine it'll be another 5 or 6 years between albums. Being honest with you, I think every few years is all we can manage, really.
But I mean, it's just the prospect of an album coming out is something to look forward to, isn't it?
It's I mean, I'll give you an idea. Like, I think we had 11,000 downloads for the 4th album. The 3rd album. And we got 450 quid. And that was because what we did, we thought, well, we'll just be honest and say, pay what you want, And we ended up with 450 quid from 11,000 people downloading.
Jeez. Well, yeah.
So maybe we charge a quid this time.
Yeah.
Do it for a quid. Do it for 11 grand would be all right. So, if everyone pays a quid, that's 11 grand. That will get us our next album, because you got to think about it in terms of costings for the album. This will probably be 3 or 4 grand that you don't get any return on investment for. You're just paying out, putting the music. It might get like 400 or 500 quid maybe back from people downloading it, but that's my point. Is we're not going to make any money on it. It's just more from a historical point of view now, in terms of legacy.
What about, have you ever thought about the crowdfunding? No,
I not at all. We discussed it, but we just think it feels a bit eerie. It's like I wouldn't like to ask, I think we can fund it ourselves. We've all got jobs, right? It just means that I have to drink less wine, smoke less fags, um, and eat less red meat, whatever it is to make sure that we have to pay for it. We go. We're lucky enough to have work. Not all people have jobs at the moment.
Yeah.
These are crazy times. I'm grateful to have a job. I think we're all grateful in the band to have a job. So I wouldn't like to ask people who generally you've got to look at others fans of working class, probably broke as well. If they're not broke, they're intelligent working class that have got jobs as well. And I think it's too much to ask your own fan base. Hi, I know you bought the last 3 albums, but how about funding this album? It feels too like I can't do it to our lot because I know most of them. And this is, touches into one of your questions about the special relationships with your fans. That's the problem. We know our fan base, and literally we do, right? So it can become a bit like you're asking people that you actually know, that you've known for fucking hell, the band's been going since 2002 for 20 years. Some fans have stuck with us or have even been there just 10 years. And you've met them at concerts, you've met them at after parties. They've already put a good shift in by buying the albums previously, traveling around the country to go and watch you. So I'd feel too bad to ask on a crowdfund. I couldn't do it. I think we should fund it until, there's a chance ever of a label that thinks, okay, they got 5,000 fans, 10,000 fans. It's worth taking a punt on them. In the past, we had to sit down with a label and they're cooking vinyl.
Uh-huh.
They're quite cool. They're quite cool guys. The two MDs. He said, "Oh, the two MDs." They sat down and they're really good. They said, "Look, we've been number crunching, and we don't think you've got 5,000 fans." I'm sorry. We said they reckoned at the time. Said, "But you might have 3,000, you might have 4,000, but we don't think you've got 5,000." And then we're getting 11,000 downloads. So you kind of sort of think, okay, any label that's gonna take a chance on you needs that minimum 5,000 ticket value to make us even take a chance on us, really. Right. So it's a hard one to justify as well. And also, there's a lot of searches online for the others. As you're probably aware, there's about 15 different bands called the Others.
Yeah.
There's the original Others from Ireland in the 1960s, who were a folk band. There was the Italian garage rock Others from the 1980s. There's the Others, the rap duo in Atlanta, Georgia. There's the Pakistani death metal band, the Others, as well. And the list goes on. So also, you've got to see it from a record label's perspective. They're going, right, how many searches online for the Others? Fuck knows what that search ratio is. But how many of them are actually searching for my band, the Others, as opposed to the other death metal band in Pakistan?
Yeah.
It's a hard one to, if you're a label, you're going, God, they've got a lot of figures for searches for the Others.
Well, so we're just waiting then. We'll wait for these rehearsals and see what comes out of that. I'm looking forward to an album at some point anyway. I'll buy 5 just to kind of boost your wages a bit.
No, we got jobs. Just buy the one copy. That'll be sufficient.
Right, just before we go, Dominic, on the last bit of the podcast where I asked my guests to come up with 4 heroes to come for dinner. 4 heroes, dead or alive, for whatever walk of life you want them to be. And obviously I want to know what you're cooking them as well, if you're a good cook. So just fire away.
this was tricky. This was the hardest question. And I thought about this as well because I've got a small list here.
Uh-huh.
And it's all right. So ones that definitely get through. Marky Smith. I'd probably feed him amphetamines. Just my roadie was a guy called Jeff Katani, a lovely guy, and Jeff did the one concert with the Fall as the roadie, and in those days the band were doing maybe rather more expensive kind of consumptions. Jeff turned up at the Fall, and as far as I know, he said, "Oh, how are you, Mark? Can I offer you anything?" And as far as I'm aware, at the time, Marky Smith said, "There's nothing I need here," and opened up a sheet of newspaper. The newspaper was like a copy of the Daily Mirror, and he opened up the Daily Mirror in front of Jeff. He said, "Jeff, come and have a look at this. You can see why I don't need anything." In the middle of the Daily Mirror, there was about, Jeff reckons, 2 ounces of amphetamines in the middle of the newspaper that Marky Smith was getting his finger and just dabbing and putting onto his tongue, dabbing and putting onto his tongue, dabbing and putting onto his tongue. And Jeff said he just sort of went, "Okay, then, obviously can't help you with anything. I'll just get a drink at the bar and leave you to get on with your speed." So for Marky Smith, I would probably feed him base amphetamine. Where I would procure these things, who knows? The second one would be Iggy Pop. Again, Stooges have been a big influence on my life, and I think Marky Smith and Iggy would get on quite well at dinner. I would like to think so. In terms of cooking him something, these days he's quite a lean individual, you know. I know he likes his exercise and does his Tai Chi and stuff. So I don't know. What do you feed Iggy Pop? Does he even eat meat? I don't know. So I'd be dubious about what I'd be able to feed Iggy. I wouldn't want to piss him off. Maybe a pop noodle. And then Kim Gordon, I would put forward from Sonic Youth. Sonic Youth probably like the band of my teens, really. A lot of people were into Nirvana at the time, so I obviously liked Sonic Youth. So, you know,
Yeah.
I was kind of like that kind of kid. If everyone liked Nirvana, I liked Sonic Youth. And I love Sonic Youth. So like it was my first concert that I ever travelled outside of Somerset for. And I had to get a bus from Somerset to London, age 16, go and watch Sonic Youth on the Washing Machine tour at Kentish Town Forum. And they were absolutely incredible. It was either like 94, 95, 96, something like that. So I would have been like 2 years before uni. Then I went to see Sonic Youth as much as I could in London, and saw that sort of legendary gig that they did at the Scala, where they played all of their greatest hits before the band sort of said goodbye. But I think she might be vegetarian or vegan. So a nice salad probably for Kim Gordon. A nice salad. Then it gets tricky for the final person. It's like I did wonder if I should do this as lineage to my county. So I'm from Somerset. The county is known for not just my band, the others, that are known for a band that symbolises everything about our county, and that's the Wurzels. The Wurzels lead singer was a gentleman by the name of Adge Cutler. Adge Cutler, I'm hoping you already know this man, and maybe you own all of the Wurzels back catalogue already.
I just punted him on eBay there and I made a fortune so I can buy more others records.
Oh, you've definitely hit on something here. Adge Cutler is he's a legend. So what happened with the Wurzels is that when the Wurzels were big in the 70s, Adge Cutler died just before they became big, right?
Mm-hmm.
So imagine it's a bit like AC/DC with the original singer of AC/DC. He died and then AC/DC became big, didn't they? Right?
Yeah.
Well, it's very similar with the Wurzels. Wurzels not quite as big as AC/DC, but the Wurzels are quite big in our county, that's for sure. Adge Cutler died very close to the Combine Harvester song. So Adge had written all the songs and everything, but dead. The 70s happened. The Wurzels become this massive band. And I would like to have Adge Cutler at dinner because he's like, I know the Wurzels inside out. You know, they're Somerset's finest band. You know, it's hard for my band to make an impression as a person born from Somerset when I'm competing against the Wurzels. But no one really knows Adge Cutler, who was really the founding father and the songwriter of the Wurzels. And I think it would be hilarious having like kind of cool guys like Iggy Pop and Marky Smith, a really cool lady like Kim Gordon, and then Adge Cutler speaking in a Somerset accent, going, "Can you pass the pepper over, Kim? And Iggy, can you drink a pint of cider?" And you know, maybe in a Somerset accent, that might just make dinner go nicely.
That sounds amazing. It does, man. It's something a bit different, isn't it? Who else did you have in mind other than Adge Cutler? You can have like a few honorary mentions.
Oh, thank you. All right. Well, these people I've got kicking around the corners. I would like Danny Fields. So, sorry about this.
No.
This is the Bible. This is the best music book ever written. In my opinion, people who are listening to the podcast might go, "What's Dominic on about now?" This is the original copy of Wonderland Avenue. I had a former partner, Sally Dunstan, and she bought Wonderland Avenue first edition for me for my birthday 10 years ago. And I always look at it as just the greatest present anybody could have ever given me. It's just wonderful. I hold it, treasure it. And it's first edition. Danny Fields wrote it. And it's basically about Iggy Pop and the Stooges in the early days and all of the work that Danny Fields did with the Stooges and the Doors. It's just the most amazing book. And then I went to watch the Danny Fields film at Hackney Empire, not Hackney Empire, somewhere up in Hackney where there's a cinema, about 5 years ago. And that Danny Fields documentary is now on YouTube, and that's brilliant. So I would like Danny Fields. And I think he's vegetarian. Kathleen Hanna, obviously, you know, Riot Girl in her own respect. I went to see La Tigre many, many times. I love La Tigre. I think Kathleen Hanna is wicked. I think she's vegan, I think. So maybe a salad.
Just need to do a big bowl for them.
Yeah, a big bowl for the vegans and vegetarians on this one. And then James Williamson, who was the guitarist in the Stooges' third album, Raw Power. And then Ron Ashton, who was the guitarist for the first two Stooges albums. That will probably. Oh, and Nico. I put Nico in as well. I thought Nico would be good fun at dinner as well. She's deaf in one ear, and she was pretty wild. And I thought, yeah, Nico might add some German sensibility to the dinner.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. It does, man. Sounds really good. Will you fit them on your run your table?
Wow, that is a question. This table, I don't know. This probably would hold. I think we might get 6 round it. I might get 6. Yeah. I've been here a few years now, and I lead certainly a lot quieter life these days. I just clock in and clock out, go to work, and my days of having any parties seems like a different world. That something that I always remember like quite vividly, but it seems strange that it ever occurred.
Yeah, but it seems they went really quick, didn't it? It doesn't feel like kind of 15, 20 years ago. Like, see, like of it. I mean, like the last couple of people I've spoke to was Lloyd, Alfie for the Hollowways, Gemma for Baby Shambles. All these people, and it's kind of everybody's the same. They don't know where the times went. It's just kind of like everybody still wants to be playing these songs, but it's moved on 15 years. Just in a flash.
Well, I always sort of give this example of it's 1996 and I'd never seen The Damned play. So I'm excited. I'm really excited. So I get my ticket to go and watch The Damned, and they're playing The Garage to 600 people, and it's 20 years after 76. Okay? This is one of the greatest bands that have walked the planet, The Damned. And I'm watching them, aged 18 years old, play to 600 people. And I was like, what the fuck? This is madness. Okay, now The Damned in 2021 play 2 nights sold out at the Roundhouse to 3,000 people a night. That's more fair. That's more fair. But in 96, they were playing to 600 people. And I think that's what people sort of don't realise is that, the first 20 years after a scene, it's kind of those bands go off a cliff. There's no sort of renaissance or sort of nostalgia. I really think until you get in at the 35-year stage, so 40-year stage.
We're looking at a big, massive Others tour in 2035.
2025? No,
2035.
2035. That's where about 2035, 2040. I'll probably just be ready to retire from my job by then. Get the band back together.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to it, Dominic. You've been a fabulous guest.
No bother. It's
Thanks
been lovely.
Thanks very much for having you. I'm just going to end it here, and then I'll get a wee chat with you.
I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much for your time.
Magic. I hope you all enjoyed this episode of Time for Heroes podcast. If you would like to get in touch, the best way is on the Facebook page, Time for Heroes podcast, or on Instagram at Time for Heroes podcast, or Twitter at Time for Heroes P1, or drop me an email at timeforheroespod@gmail.com. You'll find Time for Heroes on all podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple, Google and Amazon. Please leave a review where you can, share with others, and more importantly, enjoy.